Beebe, Brent Knuckle, Josh Bolton, Kurt Reisenweber had a band called Juice. We were big fans of Juice. We would go to Juice shows. Everyone in Catonsville would go to Juice shows. At that time, I used to hang out and always be around the Juice guys, and I would, whenever I could, you know, jump behind the drum kit in between songs or practice and play the drums, Brent's drums. And by watching Brent, I really picked up a certain style that stuck with me to the day. Brent Knuckle really influenced me as far as a drummer that I personally knew at this point in my life or my drumming career. And then it was at a point that Brent went away to college in West Virginia, and I got a phone call from Kurt Reisenweber. He said, "We have a show tonight. Brent can't make it back. You think you can cover?" And I was like, "Well, cool, what's the show?" And he's like, "It's a band, Gut Instinct and Clutch are opening up for us." And I was like, wow, okay. So at that point, I got thrown to the wolves really quick. I ran home, grabbed the cassette tape, listened to the shit out of it, played it on my pillows on my bed, went to the rehearsal spot to pack up the stuff. We went over a couple of the songs real quick. We show up at a place called the Polka Inn over on Route 40. And dude, we show up, Clutch is on stage, smoking it. It was their first show. This was 1991. This was their first show in Baltimore. I've later gone on to ask Neil about this, and he said, yeah, it was the first time we came up to Baltimore. Clutch is on stage. We're going on next. I got a put together, like, you know, drum kit. One tom from here, one bass drum here. You know, everything was just rinky-dink. You know, the thing was barely hanging together. The drummer from Gut Instinct was backstage on a practice pad kit, warming up, looking straight out of like a Slayer, like Dave Lombardo. He looked at the drum kit that I had and was like, "You want to borrow my floor tom?" I hit the floor tom. It was the greatest sounding drum in the world. It was like crack, 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 boom. So anyway, we get out on there, I get all set up, the crowd's moving forward, and Kurt, right before we get ready to start, Kurt Reisenweber turns around and looks at me and he goes, "Don't fuck up now." And I just remember going, "Thanks, man, thanks." And I turn and look at Kevin Beebe on guitar and he goes, "You got this." And we went right into like a song, Man Possessed or something, and after the pit started and everything went cool and my nerves calmed down, and after the song was over, Kevin turned to me and goes, "Dude, you got this." So that was my first ever time playing a show that, you know, and that's when the bug really hit me. So now we're at 1991. This was November of 91. And that really, man, gave me the itch that, man, I gotta get my friends Sean Kearney and Jeff Newman together, because we're going back to Jeff Newman's basement and we're gonna make this shit happen.
Mainly got started because there was a lack of original music. Even though Juice had covers in the beginning, it started out with originals right along with them. And we all loved music, and we were all real novice musicians. We picked up instruments to basically be in that band. Luckily, we were kind of addicted to it, so we got better quick enough that we got shows and practiced a lot. Our influences were, it was mainly hardcore music, and then we tried to influence a lot of heavy drive, you know, Black Sabbath, and I'd say at that point we were kind of against metal, but there was a blend of, you know, that kind of music produced.
funny because when I went into 7th grade band, I was in the drum line, and Kurt Reisenweber was also in the drum line, and he used to always yell at me because I wouldn't hit the notes right. I didn't read the music fast enough, you know, and he'd always push me out of the way, and then he'd take over the snare or whatever. And I remember when they were first starting the band, he and Kevin called because they had heard that I had a drum set and wanted to know if I could play, and for whatever reason it just didn't work out. And then of course Greg got in, and he's a shredder, and they killed it with him. And as soon as I saw Juice for the first time, like, and I can't even remember, it might have been in Kurt's basement or something, but I remember being like, damn man, I should have joined this band, you know what I mean? And then as luck would have it, I guess in the summer of '89, or somewhere in there when we were in Ocean City, the boys, they all moved down and Greg did not, so they reached out to me, and Josh and I got in his Volkswagen Fox and drove back to Baltimore and got my drums and drove them back, and we had practice that afternoon, and then we rented a storage shed from there, and that's kind of when I kind of became part of the band.
Yeah, we managed to, at least I did, live meagerly off of that. We had, I worked at the bank to supplement, but we had a real big following in Baltimore and a real big following in West Virginia. And we got guarantees at both. And so we kind of had a regular thing every month, and that kept the band alive and a little bit of money for us. Not much, grand but
Joe Herbick and I actually went up to where Ian was going to college with George Brem in the dead of winter during Christmas break, because Ian's college had a dual VCR machine, so we were going to make a video for Juice. We had the song and recorded, and Joe and I drove up there through icy snow, and we made this video. And dude, that was Joe Herbick was always there too, always hanging out, supporting, always providing. You know, who else is going to drive you like 6 hours to, like, in the middle of winter to go make a video on 2 VHS machines? You know, that's, everybody was just pitching in all the time. It was just real good.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed, to be honest, between the two of us, because it was a nice balance of, like, you know, obviously, like, those guys, like, people always pigeonhole them as being, like, you know, more hardcore, hard band, but all those guys loved the same things that we loved. You know, they were very diverse in what they liked. You know, they kept their sound to maybe a more specific realm, you know, where we were maybe a little bit more varied. Like, a lot of people thought, you know, we were a little more, and obviously in general we were like a lighter band as far as, like, you know, not being heavy all the time or whatever, but we could be heavy, we could be soft, we could be country, we could be whatever. But those guys could also do the same fucking thing, you know. They were into music. Like, I remember wearing one of BB's shirts, one of BB's juice shirts. It was one of the ones, the classic, like, surfer in the back and stuff, and like the cool Juice logo and stuff. All those guys are such fantastic artists too.
You know, Kurt and I, when we met in that art room, well, we met at St. Joe and decided to form a band and all that kind of stuff. So we were always, whatever bands I was playing in, like, even if Kurt wasn't in it, like, Kurt was like my best friend. We were always hanging out. We were always listening to music together. And I think it was around senior year, summer between junior and senior year, me and Kurt had been playing with Greg Risk and Craig Markowitz and Matt Pitroff a little bit, like in different combinations. All of us played together in Greg Risk's basement.
But I know
And Kevin too. I mean, by that time, me and Kevin, by 1989, me and Kevin had been playing together for about a year and a half. And we would go over, me and Kevin would just go over to each other's houses, and we would just jam. We'd just play guitar. We'd work riffs off each other, and we just kind of did it to jam, just to like learn how to play together. Like, and then I guess it was around senior year. I guess it was me, Kevin, Matt, Greg Risk, and Kurt. Were, I guess, the first iteration of Juice, maybe for a couple practices. I think we played one show after we all graduated high school at St. Joe. And then Greg Risk he had his own thing going on. He wasn't really, it just didn't work out. I don't know. Kurt knew this guy named Brent Knuckle. And I had seen Brent skating at like the Arbutus Ditch. Didn't really know him, but Kurt said they'd played drums together in like middle school or something like that. So Brent came over to Matt Pitcheroff's house, and me, Matt, and Brent jammed out a couple songs, and I was like, oh, it's on. Like, this guy was good. He was providing that same kind of framework for, good music to happen in. And me and him just clicked bass and drums. Like, I told him one time, I was like, dude, I want to play freaking music with you the rest of my life. Like, we just got it. We knew, because, by that time, we were kind of listening to like the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers too and stuff like that, where, those guys were, experimental, yeah, but definitely like a little more free form. But there was structure there, and that's what, that's what playing with Brent was like
branching off, doing other things with Juice. At that point, Juice had really started to... Juice, at that point, was like the Catonsville, the heavier side of the music. Sporadic had more of that classic rock lockdown, at that time. Juice was really attracting the kids that wanted to slam dance. And, summer of 1990, down Ocean City, Juice rented a storage bin. And we were all outside and packed in there. And
we moved down to Ocean City summer of 1990, and Brent was living on like 28th Street, and he was living with like Kevin Gardy and Dave Ballman and those guys, and me and Kevin and Kurt were living on 7th Street, and we decided we were going to practice in the living room of the house on 7th Street. Brent had his drums, Kevin and me had our guitars and amps, and Kurt was singing, and I think the cops came in about 10 to 15 minutes. I was surprised they let us play that long. But that first practice, we had like 7 people in the living room with us, and there were people coming up out of nowhere onto the porch. And I think we were trying to cover a Leonard Skinner song that I didn't know the bass line to. And I forget what else we had. Maybe Sacred Cow we were playing at that point. And the guy across the street, Greg Olson, had a storage shed out in Ocean Pines, which is, if you're familiar with Ocean City, if you go across the bridge, you make a right, it's Ocean Pines. Nowadays, there's like houses there, and it's like real nice. Back then, there were a couple like dilapidated farms in this storage shed complex out in the middle of nowhere. And Greg Olson had a 10 by 10 room there.
The whole scene was just a fun thing to come to, right? Like, it wasn't this like testosterone like style deal like some of those other bands were. Like, our thing was like a party scene. Like, it was you could enjoy the original music and have a great time and really get into it, but it was more than just that. I mean, it was the whole atmosphere of like friends getting together and partying and having a good time, and I felt like we did a real good job making it more than just a show, always.
We would have shows out there, and 100, 150 people would show up. So I guess they weren't shows. We'd go out there to practice, and caravans of people would just come across from Ocean City, everybody we were living with, all our friends. and packed this little tiny room like to the guts, and it was off the chain fun. Like, we did that all summer long. I think I turned 19 that summer. I mean, we weren't even allowed to drink or anything like that, but we might have found ways around that. But I think that's where Juice really started in earnest, was that summer of 1990, playing in that storage shed in Ocean City. I mean,
was a total social scene. I mean, to be honest, there was lots of people that would come just for the scene, wouldn't even watch the show. We as we got bigger, there was all types of people coming just to, whether it was to something to do or to see chicks or whatever it was, and it became, especially when you play the bigger venues that might have multiple floors, there'd be people that never came off the bottom floor because it would just be where the party was, or stuff like that. So it was like that from the beginning. It was never I know what you mean with a lot of the bands, especially the harder bands, because we did have slamming every time. We did have a pit. Usually when there's a pit and slam, and it's dudes and then dudes on the periphery and everything else. And one of the interesting things is we'd often get girls in the pit.
Absolutely.
And it was kind of like, I don't know, but then you'd see a lot of people looking out for him, and if you'd have an idiot on the, in there doing anything, he would get just plucked right out, taken out, dealt with, whatever it was. So everybody felt a camaraderie and got to know everybody, and it became such a social scene that those people would only know to see each other at the next Juice show and so on, because we didn't have, there was nobody else who brought the same crowd.
We just played and played and played, and we played for anybody that would come out and see us, and we played for ourselves, that's all it was. One thing.
Josh is obviously, in my eyes, a musical genius as well, because a bass player bringing up the bottom. To me, is the unsung hero of a band. Coming from a guy who's just an observer, who doesn't play in a band, I've observed enough to know what's going on.
We're with a new song, inevitably called Nicole Brown. Check it out, it's a fresh one.
Excellent, crisp drummer. He rocks out. He's not one of those hard, like, smash it like Cabbage, guys who hits them so that, the snare's ready to die, but he's just an amazing drummer, and I love that. But I knew that Kevin and Josh were holding it down as far as, like, writing new songs and bringing new, amazing, different sounds to this area, and it culminated in knowing that everybody knew that this band was a little different, a little bit more amazing, and they got some heat for it. I went to a lot of shows down at the legendary Rev. Brent was the first drummer that his mother let him have a drum set, and so Brent, I'm probably touching on why he was so good is because he diligently would be like, "Are you cool with if I practice?" And I was like, "Of course, I want to sit here and listen to it." And we were young, 14 years old, and he would he didn't put on easy stuff, you know what I mean? He put on Iron Maiden, he put on Rush, like you said, he put on all that stuff, and he played it verbatim, like, it sounded identical. It was like right in unison with those drummers of the complicated metal bands, and so I guess that's where he cut his teeth. And I didn't even know it, you know what I mean? I was just a friend listening to his buddy. I didn't know he was, writing the future.
At this bar, it's in Baltimore, and I got this Juice shirt on, and there's all these fucking, like, Juice used to have, granted it would be a lot of guys at the show, but Juice used to also attract the ladies. Which was good because a lot of hardcore bands and stuff, it was like be a sausage fest.
You're right, but they did have a lot of...
But Juice attracted the ladies because they were still groovy, Juice had to groove, like...
Besides the Juice ladies, who were, also there, like Heather Walters, Carolyn Johnson, Jen Burke, who's now Jen Canuckle. I mean, these girls were hardcore Juice heads. Susie Tucker was always there, and I apologize to everyone I didn't mention, but Ian Herrick though was always there. If we needed to find Kurt, we call Ian.
We were harder in our music than the mainstream, but that style was very popular at that time, and so people liked to come out and see original music, and people liked to see bands put their heart and soul into their own stuff. And I think that when people would see us play, whether it was in our backyard there or any of the clubs wherever, like you were getting your money's worth. Like we were going like all in, all out to entertain people that were there, and the sound was I thought something that people could understand and relate to, and I think that was one of the things that helped us keep people coming. People talked about how fun it was to come see us, and I think that's what kept the following going.
No, it was 1990 to 1995, but mainly for this year.
Okay. So, I mean, and I don't know, it was probably just time to do something else. You know what I mean?
Anybody who's in a band knows it's like, depending on how many members you have, it's a 4-way marriage or a 5-way marriage or whatever it is. However many people.
There's a lot of great musicians out there.
Drive.